Hello, my name is Miguel Paz. Thank you for having me. I'm the founder of an organization called Poderopedia. This is a data journalism platform that maps who is who in business and politics that started in Chile and now is working in collaboration with the Consejo de Redacción in Colombia and the Institute of Press and Society in Venezuela in a distributed network of efforts to show conflicts of interest and basically map the connections between business and politics that, as you may know, being in Miami, are pretty tight in Latin America, and a lot of the things that happen in legislation or in government or in business or in tenders and bids have to do with how our elites are interconnected. They go to the same schools, they dress the same way, they attend to the same clubs. So actually knowing that one person is going to the same school with another one, and I don't mean a university, but actually a private high school, can give you some sense to report on top of that. We launched in 2012, supported by the Knight Foundation via the News Challenge grant. Startup Chile after joined us for 6 months, and with the support of ICFJ through the Knight Fellowship Program. We believe that Poderopedia has to do with a thing that Red Chua from Reuters has called structured journalism, which is in the same way that we write stories. In the process of writing those stories, we leave a lot of information that might not be interesting for the story behind, but could be important for structuring that in order to have some sort of corpus. And I mean that because archive is usually the blood of a news organization. A news event has to do with something that happened, context, and archive, what happened way before. So a journalist that has a lot of experience can deal with that because he or she has kind of like this historic background of reporting like 20 years. But what happens with a new journalist? What happens when in the news organization they cut, the first part they cut is the archive. You start losing memory, and also because a lot of their news organizations do not necessarily have a good tech structure, they start losing this information. How many of you have suffered a migration of their website and lost a lot of information? Yeah, yeah. How many of you have spent 5 hours trying to figure out something, a date that is really tiny, but you need it for that article that's going to go live in a few hours, and it's something that you wrote a year ago, but you can't find it in your computer? Well, Poderopedia started basically like a need like that. Would it be cool to have a place where we organize information and we structure it in a way that we focus on people, conflicts, and power, how people are connected? And it became a little more a community to promote transparency and accountability in democracy. So what we do is what any archive or librarian would do. We find data, we search for the data, we have some little robots that help us in the process, but then again we try to discover the connections, we vet them, and then we publish this information. We also have people that register in the website and send information, and in this new stage that we're working on, we're going to go further down that line. So basically we have journalists, we have the users, an ontology or a way that we structure the information, and we publish that, and it kind of looks like this, you know. But we also do other things. We are starting to realize that from the stories that we're making, we can also do collaborations with newsrooms and start also thinking about new ways of building things. So in one case, we will work with, for example, with El Tiempo from Colombia that using data from Poderopedia did a data visualization about the interest of the Senate. We would work with other news organizations in Chile to show who is who in the private network of school associations, or with La Prensa from Panama to build a website about elections and the candidates. And the important thing about this is that here are a few numbers, so while you look at them, I want to tell you also about what we have learned. we have learned things like most newsrooms don't have a high-end developer that deals with Python or Ruby on Rails or whatever. Usually it's a PHP developer, somebody that works with WordPress. So in the case of Panama, for example, we just took the concept of Poderopedia and we turned it into a WordPress template that we're trying to improve all the time so other people can use it. Also, we learned that ontologies are cool, but it's more cool that people actually use the things. So an ontology might be, that's for those who don't know, an ontology basically is a vocabulary to express relations. So those things are really good for organizations like the BBC, or maybe for Univision, or for Telemundo, organizations that think that they can use their archive and all the power of that information to generate new contents and new ways of generating engagement, traffic, and revenue. But there are other organizations that are way smaller that have other needs. And among those needs, we have found, speaking with potential users and allies throughout the last year, is that everybody has a specific need. Everybody likes these big projects, but everybody wants one part of the project. And that has to do also with some of the things that have been mentioned here, that we should start thinking of how we're going to build things like Lego. You know, how we're going to build any software that we build should be as components. You know, things that you may want to use data visualization, or you may want to have a faceted browser, but those things shouldn't come with, I'll give you the whole bundle. It should be unbundled, like Mercedes was showing before. So here's a user case that has happened to me. A few months ago, I was in ONA, and a journalist from an investigative center from Chicago comes to me and she says, hey, I want to map the new relations of Obama and Rahm Emanuel in Chicago, because we've realized that all of their kids go to the same private school. And that kind of like generates a space to potential new conversations that can generate new political events or eventually new businesses. So we showed her D3, we showed her Poderopedia, our software, and she said, that's really cool, but I don't have a programmer. And even if I had the money to get a programmer, I don't know what D3 means, you know? So I need help from hackers communities or from other communities around, and for sure she was going at it and trying to be involved in these communities to kind of like understand the lingo and try to work together. But also it made us realize that most of the user cases related to showing who is who or how people are connected are pretty small. You know, are like this, for example. Which are the 8 companies that gave money to Dilma Rousseff for her campaign in elections that made those 12 beautiful stadiums that I don't know who's going to fund after the World Cup, you know? You know? Or which are the 150 companies that are owned by the president of Panama and his wife? And you could say, well, you can use fusion tables for that. And actually you can, you know? But what if you want the thing to like give it some rules, you know, that it doesn't move like crazy, you know, like where you're trying to follow the thing with your mouse, or that you would like to, instead of having these little balls, have icons or faces or something like that. So we started, and this is an idea that has come a long time. There's a picture from Data Journalism Bootcamp that we organized with help of Mariano, ICFJ, and the EPIS Institute in Venezuela. And we started talking with these users and saying, well, actually, journalists and citizens, when they want to do this type of networks, they actually are thinking about 20 nodes. And when I mean 20 nodes, it's 20 entities or people or companies or organizations or places. And they're probably going to go crazy like 100, you know? If they go beyond that or even beyond 500, they're probably going to have the knowledge or the hunger to find resources to do a bigger thing. So we said, okay, which are the tools in this area that have had the fastest adoption? You know, which are the tools that even without too much promotion have been really used in newsrooms in different sizes? And we came to two, Data Wrapper, which is a German tool, that has the quality, and this is really interesting for all of us that we're thinking about this in terms of user experience, has the quality to tell you, step one, put the information here. If you don't know how to put the information, here's an example. Step two, paste it here. If you don't know how to paste it, and you get the idea. 5 steps to generate a chart. And if you didn't have numbers in the chart and you try to do one chart, it would say, this chart needs numbers, so you might want to change the type of chart. And the other one, which is even easier, it's Timeline.js by the Night Lab. That allows you, like in one sentence, to beautifully create timelines that are easy and intuitive to use. So we said, that's kind of cool. We want to do the same. So we came with this idea, Node Mapper. How about making a la Timeline.js a tool that allows you to generate network visualizations without coding and allow you to embed in your website? Why? Because we want to expand and democratize the access of this type of tools and the ways to tell stories with network visualizations. It doesn't make sense that to generate a visualization of 10,000 people or 100 people in D3 or in other libraries, you have to do the same amount of coding, and usually the most used are going to be for those that want to expose, these are the people that are ripping off our community. They're probably going to be, or these are the companies that are trying to buy land, agricultural land, and turn it into building land, So with help of a couple guys from the Macro Connections Lab, one, Manuel Aristaran, that also was in the Night Lab and was a fellow with you, and Kevin Wu, a whiz kid that is 21 years old, is only pursuing his PhD, we said, okay, let's try to do this. And we just completely ripped off Timeline.js, I might say, in the concept. Open a Google spreadsheet template, add the information, publish a spreadsheet, copy the URL, preview network map, publish it, and that's it. So this is how it would look in a really basic way of connections. We have every node or person or entity you want to call it has an ID. They have a connection. They have a name. For example, in this case, we made a little joke with the president of Panama and his wife, some corporations they own, and also, since we're playing, we said the Manuel Aristaran Group, an offshore company, and the Kevin Group, another offshore company. And then, on the connections, and this is where we need to, of course, make it way easier so you don't have numbers, you have actually the names. You have 1 is the owner of number 3, 3 is a stockholder number 2, etc., etc. So this prototype goes like this. It's basically upload the Google spreadsheet, you load the data, you set up the parameters here, and you generate a little visualization. I'm going Reid Hoffman here. If you're not embarrassed with the look of it, you haven't released early enough. And you export and embed, and you generate something like that. And for example, in this case, we would see the Manuel Aristaran Group is an offshore company, and it's connected with the Kevin Group, Industrias Ricamar, and Ricardo Martinelli. So I'm going to do a live test. Let's see if something happens. Yeah? So we load the data. So I want to do the name. I want to do the type of entity. Conveniently ready already. And we should have, see. So I have this thing. I'm going to check here. I'm going to save it. And if you're lucky enough, we're going to be able to open it up in a new window. And then we have it. And then we have, for example, the Aristaran Group, the an offshore company connected with Kevin Group, Industria Ricamar, and Martinelli. So this is just a basic idea, and we are hoping to continue working on that. We still have some, we're going to work with spreadsheet templates, but we're also thinking about other ways that you don't have to be bundled to Google services, you know, just in case. And anybody that wants to play around tomorrow and give us some feedback or come up with real user cases, that would be amazing. Thank you.